So I was listening to Jimmy Carr the other day do this really quite serious piece where he explains how good we've got it today. And he's like, 50 years ago, nobody had a hot shower in the morning. And he's right. But the really interesting question, for me at least, was why? It's not like we hadn't thought of the idea of showers. It's not like that's a new thing that's just appeared in the last 50 years. The ancient Egyptians had like a servant-fed version of this. And it's not beyond the wit of man to imagine that some pharaoh probably wanted that hot rather than cold. The ancient Greeks even had a kind of plumbed-in version. Probably a cold one, but a plumbed-in shower nonetheless. But they all suffered from one major problem, which is cost. So unless you had quite literally a king's ransom, you were swimming in the river for your wash in the morning. So the question really becomes, how do you reduce cost if you want to make something accessible, if you want to make something grow? And that's pretty simple. Work out ways to use less stuff and less people. So the real reason you have a hot shower every morning is because since the first painted shower in something like the mid-1700s, we've been working on making showers more productively. People like them and we can make a good living making them and selling them. So that productive thing is really valuable, both for the people who consume them, you using the shower, and for the people who are making them. So the real reason why your life is the most comfortable it's ever been and the safest it's ever been in the entire history of mankind is really because we've made productivity improvements. And you see this play out at a macro whole economy level. The more productive the economy becomes, the better off we all are, the better our lives all are. Governments are struggling with this at the moment and debating tax strategy and talking about different ways of doing things, but fundamentally that's all a bit of a sideshow. The only way our lives will be any better is if we are more productive and we get that solved. You can't tax your way into a better life. It's got to come from growth. It's got to come from being more productive. So the thing I really love about productivity is that we can work on it every single day in our business or in our personal lives, and we can make real small improvements that can add up to quite a lot over time. In fact, pretty much everybody underestimates how much this sort of stuff snowballs into big important things, that like a hot shower can be pretty life-changing. From my own experience with 20 to 500 million pound turnover businesses, having a real sustained focus on productivity has massive payoffs for the company and for the people that work there. Financially, it's entirely possible to add 10, 20, maybe even 30 or more % to profits in a single year. We can, as you help people ditch stuff that isn't productive and isn't adding value, you'll have a bunch of employees who are absolutely delighted and much happier. They hate doing unproductive work. So how do you know if it's worth spending time on productivity? Well, I've got a pretty decent test for this. Unless you're quite literally trucking dividends out to your shareholders with wild abandon, you need to focus on productivity. Because if you aren't, I promise you the competition is, and it's doing it today. And you might be able to beat them now, and it might be quite easy, but with every sinew of their being, they're working hard at finding ways to beat you. A good friend of mine works at a Formula One team, and they have a photograph of their opposite number out the other teams on their desks, from the designers to the receptionists, and they try and figure out ways of beating that person every single day. So if you're not on it, it's only a matter of time before you fall behind them. At the end of the day, business is a competitive sport, and the only way to win in competitive sport is to be on offense. You don't win championships by being defensive. You've got to actively plan how you're going to win and really follow that up with proper action. You need to be well thought through, get things organised, and you've got to work out ways to be more productive next year than you were last year. So I'll let you into a secret. The majority of businesses, probably 80%, don't really have a plan. They're doing what they did last year and hoping that's okay. The other 20% are working on productivity. And of those, probably no more than 5% have really figured out what our customers know, which is that you can massively improve business results by getting, say, the 300 people that work in your organisation to focus on productivity. But you can add to that significantly if you can harness the brains of everybody in your supply chain. You're adding thousands of people's ability, mental capacity, thoughts and ideas into making your business more productive. If you can do that, that's huge. achieving that puts you on a growth trajectory that will be the envy of the entire industry. And quite frankly, profitability and the things that you'll be reporting to the board about every day, that'll take care of itself.